You could feel the warmth in that green room before anyone even played the clip. Because sometimes the smallest stories tell you the most about a person, and this one, about a cup of tea, ended up saying more about Bradley Walsh than 100 red carpet interviews ever could. It started, of all places, on a podcast. Not a press junket. Not a glossy magazine feature. Just three brothers talking honestly, the way people do when the cameras feel a little further away. Ryan Thomas, sitting alongside Adam and Scott on their show At Home with the Thomas Bros, was mid-conversation about which celebrities genuinely live up to their public image. And somewhere in that chat, almost as a throwaway thought, Bradley Walsh's name came up, compared, of all things, to Jamie Foxx. You could sense the moment his brothers leaned in. Because that's not a comparison you make lightly, and Ryan clearly knew it too. He explained himself. Years ago, back on the set of Coronation Street, he found himself in the green room with Bradley, who offered to make him a cup of tea. On paper, that's nothing. It's the most mundane exchange imaginable, the kind of moment that would never make it into a highlight reel or a soundbite. But according to Ryan, it didn't play out that way at all. Bradley didn't just make the tea. He performed it. Turned it into a bit, a story, a full stretch of comic timing built around something as ordinary as boiling a kettle. And that's the detail that lingers, isn't it? Because performance under pressure is one thing. Every entertainer learns to switch it on for an audience. But performing for an audience of one, in a room with no cameras rolling, no producers watching, nothing to gain from the effort, that's something else entirely. That's not a persona. That's just who somebody is when nobody's counting. Ryan seemed almost caught off guard by his own memory of it. You could hear it in the way he described it, not as an anecdote he'd rehearsed, but as something that had genuinely stuck with him. Not many people can do that, he said. And it's worth sitting with that phrase for a second, because it wasn't really about the tea at all. It was about presence. About the rare kind of person who can make an unremarkable moment feel like something worth remembering. Then the conversation shifted again, and this is where it got interesting. Ryan brought up a clip he'd seen online, Bradley appearing on the Jonathan Ross show alongside Stormzy. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly the moment he means. Two men from completely different worlds, different generations, different corners of British culture, sitting on the same couch. And somehow it worked. Bradley sang one of Stormzy's own songs back to him, and by all accounts, sang it properly, not for laughs, not as a novelty bit, but with real warmth behind it. Watch that clip back and you can see it land. Stormzy's reaction isn't polite tolerance. It's genuine delight. And when the two of them ended up hugging at the end of it, it didn't feel staged. It felt earned. That's a difficult thing to pull off on live television, where audiences can usually sense insincerity within seconds. Viewers online picked up on exactly that, the sense that nothing about the exchange felt manufactured for content. Ryan tied the two moments together almost instinctively. The Stormzy hug. Different settings, decades apart in a career, but somehow the same person showing up in both. That's the through line he kept coming back to. What you see with Bradley Walsh really is what you get. No hidden gear shift between the on-screen version and the off-screen one. No performance reserved only for when the red light is on. It's worth pausing on why that idea resonates so strongly with audiences right now. British television has no shortage of presenters who are brilliant in front of an audience and famously guarded the moment the cameras cut. Viewers have grown almost used to that gap, used to hearing stories that quietly puncture the public image of someone they thought they knew. So when a story goes the other way, when someone who's worked closely with a presenter for years describes them as somehow more charming in private than they are on air, it stands out. It becomes the kind of clip people replay, screenshot, and send to friends with a simple caption. This is nice. There's also something in the way Ryan spoke about it that felt unusually sincere for a showbiz anecdote. He wasn't selling anything. He wasn't promoting a project alongside Bradley. He was just a colleague years later, choosing to speak warmly about someone because the memory of him had genuinely stayed that way. Maybe that's really what people responded to. Not the tea itself, and not even the sing-along with Stormzy. It was the consistency underneath both of them, the sense that decades into a career built on charm, warmth, and easy chemistry with strangers, Bradley Walsh apparently never needed to switch any of it on. It was just there. So maybe the real question isn't whether the story is charming, because it clearly is. It's why so many of us are quietly relieved to hear it. What does it say about how we watch television now, that a story this small, this ordinary, feels almost newsworthy simply because it's kind? What did you notice most while reading it? The tea, the hug, or something else entirely sitting underneath both?